All right, so let me open with this on this gorgeous, gorgeous Sunday morning. That was some very entertaining 49ers tape to watch. I came home late last night from Levi's Stadium, woke up this morning, went and got my cup of black coffee, put on the tape, and I mean, there's just so much to talk about. We're going to spend the next, I don't even know how long, talking about everything in that 49ers preseason win over the Broncos. It started with Brock Purdy at quarterback. It ended with Trey Lance leading a comeback game-winning drive. It had some good play from Sam Darnold in between, but I am not going to limit this to just the quarterbacks. This is stock up, stock down. Obviously, you see Trey Lance's name on the title below me, so we'll start with Trey Lance, but we're going to talk D linemen. We're going to talk reserve O linemen. We're going to talk rookie linebackers. I mean, up and down the roster, the 49ers had some good performances and they also had some bad ones. And again, what was a very, very entertaining game tape to watch. So when you talk about the preseason, sometimes you'll be bored out of your mind. I think I always find something that I can evaluate out of the preseason, but rarely do I find as much as I did in this football game, which I thought was really, really cool. So let's begin with Trey Lance, the pocket presence of Trey Lance in this game. We know the numbers, right? 12 of 18, 170 plus yards. He started off a little bit shaky, but finished up just awesome. I mean, Lance was working it and he found his rhythm and he got the 49ers in a position to win the football game late. But I think that his most impressive two-play sequence actually came before the game-winning drive, and it included one incompletion because we have to evaluate everything within the context of what the 49ers are trying to develop here. And they want Trey Lance to turn into a bona fide pocket passer who can succeed within the context of their system. So when you're looking at when you're looking at succeeding within a pocket-based system, I go back to, I think it was the third to last drive when Trey Lance was working and throwing to Cam Latu on a deep corner route. And Nick Bonito, who is a Denver edge rusher who had a good second half of this game, he blew by a double team of Ilm Manning and Braden Willis, the 49ers tight end. And Lance just got crushed. Blindside hit from Nick Bonito. And Lance still got the ball off, hung in there, got crushed, got the ball off, went out to Cameron Latu, left it a little bit short, but you can't blame Trey because he was just pulverized on the play. Cam Latu in the locker room told me that he should have caught that football. And what impressed me from Lance is not just the fact that he hung in there in the pocket like a man against that hit, was still able to get the throw out there to become a catchable ball for Cam Latu, but it set up a 3rd and 5. And on the very next play, Trey Lance was decisive out of the shotgun, hit Tay Martin for a 6-7 yard gain, and moved the chains. That two-play sequence showed me a lot about Trey Lance because you could talk all you want about wide open spaces, third team defense, whatever. I mean, there were big chunk plays for Lance on the game-winning drive. But when you're talking about action against opposing first teams, opposing second teams, whatever, if you're talking about action in the NFL, at critical junctures, at leverage junctures, you're going to have to be thrown into tight windows. You're going to have to be standing and delivering from the pocket. And over that 2-play stretch, Trey Lance did that, even though he got hit in the pocket on the blind side by Nick Bonito on the first play. So good throw outside the numbers, set up Cam Latu, despite the physical contact. Wasn't complete, obviously, but Lance bounced back from it on the very next play to hit Tay Martin for the first down. Go watch it. It's in the fourth quarter. I think there are probably about 7 minutes left. That 2-play sequence, especially on replay, really told me a lot about Trey Lance in this game. I mean, just as a whole, the intermediate passes from Trey Lance were on the money yesterday. He hit Willie Snead on, I think it was the penultimate drive, right? Willie Snead, the really, really precise pass. I mean, just dropped it in a bucket, was in the only spot that it could have possibly been for Willie Snead to make that play. Pinpoint precision, probably, the most accurate pass that I've seen Trey Lance throw in a 49ers uniform. And that's not to say that he's been bad on intermediate passes. I think that's been Trey Lance's big strength, right? Is the intermediate accuracy. It was on full display yesterday. The hiccups came in the short game, the interception, and then one of the near interceptions over the middle of the field. I think Lance was going for Braden Willis. Those came in the short game. So this was consistent with the evaluation that we've developed of Trey Lance over his 4 career starts in the regular season, in seasons prior, and over his time at practice as the 49ers quarterback. If he can get into a rhythm on the intermediate routes that Kyle Shanahan loves, the run off of play action, Trey can hang in there with the best of them. And the release is quicker now. The motion has shortened. It's the short game where Trey Lance is still a little up and down, where it's still a little bit of a roller coaster ride. And that's what he has to shore up to raise the floor to get to a point where the 49ers are truly comfortable with him as somebody who could be Brock Purdy's backup, who can be quarterback too. But I think that there were definitely strides made in that regard by Trey Lance yesterday. So stock up from an entertainment perspective. He led a game-winning drive. He threw into the seam well when he hit Cameron Latu on that touchdown. He obviously found Ronnie Bell on the 43-yarder to set up the game-winning field goal in the face of a blitz. I think that was really important. Jeff Deeney of Pro Football Focus had some good stats here. Lance against the blitz was 8 of 10 for 134 yards, the touchdown, and a 152.1 passer rating. So that shows you a quarterback in good command of the offense and a quarterback who can hit those intermediate routes, because those are the ones that open up when the blitz comes. So Lance was really good against the blitz with those numbers. And Sam Darnold, I'm going to talk about him in a little bit because Sam Darnold's stock is also up. Darnold using play action was 4 of 4 for 49 yards and a touchdown. So I say command of Shanahan's offense. That's what Sam Darnold was all about yesterday. I mean, Darnold, he made several A-plus throws in this game yesterday. I've talked a lot about the crosshash throw to Daz Newsome on the 3rd and 10 that he executed. When I watched the replay today, I was impressed with a slant that Darnold fit right in there. Just a bullet to Chris Conley. I mean, his throw to Ronnie Bell on a slant was perfect, but Bell couldn't handle it. Clanged off of Bell's hands for the interception. So one of Sam Darnold's best throws, ironically, turned into one of the worst plays for his stat line, but it wasn't his fault. It was the receiver's fault on the play. Throw after throw after throw was on the money from Sam Darnold yesterday, including one that was negated by a penalty. He was drilled, I believe, by Josie Jewell, the linebacker, blitzing, and Darnold hung in there, just like Trey Lance hung in there on the blindside hit on his throw to Cam Latu. Darnold hung in there and found Jawan Jennings for what should have been a 20-yard pickup downfield. But I think they called holding against John Feliciano on the play. So Darnold was steady. Darnold didn't make any mistakes yesterday. He was firing like a jugs machine. Unfortunately for him, the offensive line had a couple breakdowns, and that led to the pair of sacks. There was one that I just can't wait to ask Kyle Shanahan about, and I should be able to here in a couple hours. But there was a blitz that Denver brought, and I think Darnold wanted to go to his hot route, but absolutely nobody slowed the blitz down at all. I don't even know if Darnold had enough time to go to the hot route, so he just had to eat the football and take the sack. We'll see if Kyle Shanahan blames Darnold for that, or if he thinks that there was, a missed opportunity for the 49ers to slow the blitz at least a little bit. It was on Darnold really quick. But, even though he did take those 2 sacks, there was no hint of Darnold taking too long to get the ball out. He was quick with the ball yesterday. He was solid downfield. I mean, the 49ers have to be thrilled with their entire quarterback room. We've talked about Brock Purdy already. In a previous video, I wrote about Brock Purdy in the article, first play, Deebo Samuel, just like old times, 49ers executing that short game, setting up the yak. That was all good. He was sharp. Well, you can't have a big floor drop off to number 2. And there really was no floor drop off to Sam Darnold yesterday. If he would have gotten the play behind that first team offensive line, I'm not sure that he faces any of the negative sack plays that he saw yesterday. You look at the tape, the ball's getting out. Sam Darnold playing really well. Stock up for him, and obviously stock up for Trey Lance playing later, especially after Lance got going. I mean, just such a rhythm quarterback. So we're seeing, and I guess you could expect that from a young QB with so limited game reps. Everybody was freaking out after week 1 of Lance, and I think we were fairly critical here, right? You talk about the lack of decisiveness. You talk about some of the lack of accuracy on the short game, and that had been a recurring issue for Trey Lance. But the whole time I emphasize this was his first game back from major injury against the Raiders. And first games back from major injury, not everybody can be Brock Purdy, right? Brock Purdy, first game back from major injury yesterday, looked really sharp. There were no psychological holdups for Brock Purdy. I think in the first game back for Trey Lance, though, there was a little hesitancy against the Raiders. But I thought that even though there might have been a little bit of hesitancy early in his start yesterday against the Broncos, he let go of it when deadline pressure came. 49ers needed him to deliver on 3 straight drives when they were behind late in the fourth quarter against the Broncos. And he absolutely did. He started letting it rip. That's what Kyle Shanahan has wanted from Trey Lance. I thought he also had good pocket presence. I thought that he scrambled around well in this game. There were a couple times where he escaped. I thought Trey Lance was playing faster physically. I thought he was moving faster, and it's probably because he was thinking less. He was more decisive, which is something that you would expect in the second game back after he had that first game in a return from the serious injury under his belt. So for the 49ers quarterback room, it was a great night. It really was, because you saw the upward trajectory from Lance within the outing itself, despite the early mistakes, and you saw Sam Darnold build on what was a solid week 1 against the Raiders. So what they have now is quarterback option power, right? They've got Brock Purdy playing well. He's set as the one. He's going to play more next week on Friday against the Chargers. I keep on wanting to say San Diego, but it technically is the LA Chargers. That's going to be the dress rehearsal, so you're probably going to see even more of the 49ers first team offense. And then I think it's going to be a good opportunity to give more quality reps to both Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. I mentioned earlier that quarterback 2 can be a fluid situation throughout the season. If Lance needs more reps to continue developing at a rapid rate, well, then he can get more reps even if he's quarterback 3. So just if Sam Darnold, if he starts as QB2 for week 1 for the 49ers, it doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. The 49ers just want to give themselves as many options as possible in this QB room and then let it develop organically. And I thought that this game against the Broncos was a great, great example of just that trend happening. All right, so stock up for Lance, stock up for Darnold. How about the stock up for Nick Zakelj and Jason Poe? Minus the penalties, but let me show you something. This is from Pro Football Focus. They do a great job tracking the pressures allowed along the offensive line. Can magnify that for you. So in parentheses, you have the total amount of pass blocking snaps against Denver. And then the pressures allowed is the number right before the parentheses. So Leroy Watson didn't have a good game yesterday. I thought that he allowed a lot of pressure. But look down here at the bottom. Nick Zakelj and Jason Poe only allowed 1 pressure in 28 pass blocking snaps each. And upon watching the tape, I thought that Zakelj still has some penalty issues. But Nick Zakelj, a player who, if you look at his college career at Fordham, started off terribly there, but rapidly improved. Well, with the 49ers, he wasn't any good last week. He obviously struggled through his rookie year, but he was a 6th-round pick coming out of a small school. You expected the learning curve to take a bit. I thought that I saw marked improvement from both of the 2 reserve offensive linemen right here on the bottom yesterday. Zakelj, even, we don't only have to talk about pass protection. There was a run play, 3rd and 1, that the 49ers had to pick up against DJ Jones. And anybody who's watched the 49ers over the past several seasons knows that DJ Jones is a load. It's tough to block him one-on-one in these run situations. I mean, low to the ground, fire hydrant, nose tackle. Nick Zakelj handled DJ Jones one-on-one. Good vision for Ty Davis-Price, the running back on the play, picked up the first down. So I looked at that and I said, oh boy, Nick Zakelj's gotten stronger. Nick Zakelj can execute a pressurized run block that the 49ers need him to execute. And then I didn't think the Nick Zakelj got backed up yesterday. Again, only 1 pressure given up over those 28 snaps. Thought Jason Poe, who has shown a solid anchor even at that shorter stature, picked up Josie Jewell, the blitzing linebacker, on a play yesterday. He was good in pass protection. The 49ers' second-team offensive line gave up pressure yesterday. I get it. I talked about the pressure they gave up to when Sam Darnold was the quarterback. Trey Lance obviously got hit. I mean, you look at the pressure that Il Manning allowed. This was the first pressure that he's allowed in his NFL career after a clean sheet against the Raiders. One of the plays that Il Manning allowed pressure was the play that I talked about against Trey Lance when Lance got hit on the blind side. That was Manning's fault, and that was also Braden Willis's fault. They let Benito get around both of them on a double team. So by no means was the second team offensive line perfect, but the 49ers aren't looking for perfection from the second team offensive line. That's an unattainable goal. You could only carry 8, max 9 offensive linemen on your 53-man roster. So what you're looking at beyond the starting 5 is you're trying to find good depth pieces. So you're trying to find individual components that you can carry on the 53 so they can plug in case guys get hurt, right? And in week 1, I left that game saying, I'm not really sure who the 49ers depth pieces are going to be. Has it fully crystallized yet? No, obviously it hasn't. And I thought, somebody like John Feliciano didn't have a strong showing. He gave up the sack, this right over the middle. He was playing center yesterday, but I do think Feliciano's a lock for the 53 man. I think he's better at guard than he is at center. But who are bodies number 7, number 8, and maybe even number 9 going to be for the 49ers if you consider somebody who's occupying the practice squad? Well, we don't know yet, but I do think that there was a solid step forward for somebody like Nick Zakelj, a solid step forward for somebody like Jason Poe. And when you talk about swing tackle, well, I don't think Jalen Moore was as bad as some people initially thought. Brock Purdy was sacked on pressure that the 49ers gave up from the left side, but it didn't look like it was Poe's fault on the replay. It looked like Ty Davis Price fell. He might have had an assignment on the play, and it was kind of just jailbreak pressure coming there over the left side, and Brock Purdy took the sack, and the 49ers moved on. In the future, obviously, Trent Williams is going to be at left tackle. He got the day off as a veteran yesterday. And I'm not sure where the 49ers stand at this swing tackle spot. I know Jalen Moore wasn't good in week 1 against the Raiders. I think he was a little bit better, gave up a couple pressures here in week 2 against the Broncos. I think Matt Pryor was all right against the Broncos, but Pryor hasn't shown us left tackle, right tackle flexibility yet. He's played exclusively on the right side. And I think that yesterday really underscored what we had suspected, that Leroy Watson is still a big work in progress for the 49ers. He might still be a year away. Gave up those 3 pressures yesterday. There was one rep that was particularly ugly from Leroy Watson, just got beat there in the second half. So the 49ers are still, trying to determine what's going to happen at swing tackle. Like I said, there's a chance the swing tackle isn't on the roster yet. But there are more questions than answers along that second team offensive line, but some positive progress, especially in the stock up section for Nick Zakelj and Jason Poe. Let's move to the defensive side of the football. Stock up for Marlon Davidson, former second-round pick out of Alabama, and T.Y. McGill. Marlon Davidson had a couple big plays. A sack, which was just a big-time effort sack, was working on that right defensive tackle spot against the left guard. That was big for the 49ers. But then, later on in the first half, and this was on the drive that Denver saw the clock expire on at the 1-inch line, Marlon Davidson had a really, really nice stop chasing down a screen pass. You don't see many defensive tackles, especially reserve defensive tackles, come out of the stack and chase down a running back on a screen. But that shows high intensity, high effort, and it shows good athleticism. So Marlon Davidson had the big sack, and then he had the big rundown play. I have to say that his stock is up. So is T.Y. McGill's. McGill had the excellent pressure that set up a near interception for Marcelino McCrary Ball. That came in the second half. And then in the first half, T.Y. McGill, with a rip move that turned into a spin, delivered a sack. And, we can take a look at the 49ers 53-man roster projection right here in the context of the full 90-man to see where both of these guys are. And I have them on the outside looking in right now. Here's T.Y. McGill. I have got to put T.Y. McGill above Spencer Wege. Wege opened up camp, I thought, with a couple flash plays, but as pads have come on, as the dog days have hit, the veterans have kind of risen to the top. I have Marlon Davidson on the inside of the 49ers roster picture, though. And that hustle play yesterday only solidified my current belief that Marlon Davidson is either going to make this team on the 53-man or the 49ers are going to find a way to keep him on that practice squad. so that he can contribute, because he has quietly delivered some flash plays and some solid contributions for the 49ers on the inside. All right, why don't we make this switch? Why don't we move Waggy over to depth 4 and T.Y. McGill up here to depth 3. T.Y. McGill moved up for the 49ers, moving up in the world for San Francisco yesterday with his performance. There's McGill. And here is Spencer Waggy. Rookie out of North Dakota State, Trey Lance's alma mater. So as you see here, this defensive line room, by the way, Austin Bryant, Cleveland Farrell, also both productive yesterday. They've solidified themselves as, the guys that I think are immediately behind Drake Jackson and Nick Bosa, neither of whom was available yesterday. I think Austin Bryant had 3 pressures. Cleveland Farrell seems like he could be a effective enough pass rusher to spell some of the bigger names on the 49ers, and he's rigid against the run, which is why I think the 49ers are really going to value his contributions this year. Kerry Hyder Jr. was part of that first unit yesterday. He's going to make the team just because he's a Swiss Army knife, trusted agent of Chris Kacerik's. But where I was really impressed was the interior play of Marlon Davidson and T.Y. McGill. So I have both of them climbing up this depth chart right now for the 49ers. All right, more stock up. How about Samuel Womack? Now, this is really, really interesting. So the 49ers, Isaiah Oliver's stock is down. He's going to be one of the guys that I list a little bit later. Spoiler alert on that one. Not really, but missed tackle for Isaiah Oliver. That came after a week of real, I would say, dramatic statements from the coaching staff. I mean, we heard from Kyle Shanahan. We heard from Steve Wilkes. Isaiah Oliver is not secured a starting spot, and now that couldn't be any more clear. The guy's not playing with the first team. The 49ers have openly said that they're looking at other options to be better in coverage at the nickelback situation. And the reason that this has opened up as a possibility is because Samuel Womack and Ambry Thomas have both impressed enough in practice to allow Deommodore Lenoir, the outside cornerback, to kick inside and kick Isaiah Oliver out of the slot cornerback position. Well, yesterday, Ambry Thomas did make a good play. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but he also had a bad play where he got beat on the double move by Jalen Virgil. A guy who didn't have any glaring bad plays was Samuel Womack, the second-year defensive back out of Toledo. In fact, Womack had 2 really, really nice pass breakups yesterday. One was against Marvin Mims, and that was on kind of a little comeback pattern on the outside near the end of the first half. And then Womack just got in front of a slant from Jarrett Stidham to Marcus Callaway. So 2 separate route concepts that Samuel Womack was all over. And, let's talk a little bit about Sam Womack. This is 4.4 speed. So the 49ers, even though he's 5'9" or 5'10", they think that he can play on the outside. And so far he's proving it. Got really long arms. I mean, he's built like a prototypical slot cornerback. But again, he's got the 4.4 speed, which tends to suggest that he can play on the outside as well. Either way, there's versatility here for Samuel Womack. He is one of the 49ers options in the slot, but I think that their preferred alignment is to have either Womack or Ambry Thomas take over one of the outside corner positions and nickel packages, because they love the hyena, Deommodore Lenoir, on the inside. He can do that dirty work on the inside. I mean, Lenoir, we know how feisty he is. I think the 49ers love the idea of him in the slot. Well, they took a big step forward toward that with how well Samuel Womack played yesterday. So stock up for Samuel Womack. More on his competitor for the outside cornerback spot, Ambry Thomas, in just a little bit. More stock up for the 49ers, D. Winters and Jalen Graham. Both of these guys forced fumbles. D. Winters on 4th down, right, with Ben DiNucci, the Broncos' 3rd-string quarterback, going for the pylon. Winters was in the middle of the field. First, he was tracking the running back, and then he just relied on his instincts to get after the QB, trying to go for the first down. Winters is fast as hell. I mean, we saw last week Winters going sideline to sideline. We saw Jalen Graham going sideline to sideline. Jalen Graham again today yesterday with the speed showed out on tape. Little Jordan Humphrey, the receiver for the Broncos, made the catch. Jalen Graham flew in from the middle of the field and knocked the ball out. 2 forced fumbles for the 49ers, 2 rookie linebackers. At this point, I have to say they're favorites to make the 53-man roster. And I have both of them on the inside. The 49ers might have to carry 6 linebackers. They normally carry only 5, but they are so loaded in this room. They've been getting good play from Marcelino McCrary Ball. Winters and Graham, what they did yesterday, I thought, again, popped off the screen. I mean, obviously you're carrying Warner and Greenlaw. Burks is hurt for the time being. He won't be back until the regular season. There's some good linebackers that might be pushed out of the mix. Curtis Robinson, who's been having a good camp. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, who's been with the 49ers for a while. Kiava Tazino is, I think practice squad at best at this point, just because he's buried on the depth chart behind all this quality play. But boy, Winters and Graham were good yesterday. And what D. Winters told me in the locker room yesterday was really interesting. He credited Johnny Holland and the 49ers defensive staff, so that starts with Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator, for keeping things simple for the rookies so they can play fast right out of the gate, build their confidence. And nothing's going to build your confidence more than pursuit from the middle of the field, cutting off the sideline and forcing a fumble. And we saw both of these guys do that yesterday, right? And the pursuit was great against the Raiders too. So when you look at how well the careers of D. Winters and Jalen Graham have started, you have to salivate about the 49ers' depth and their future at linebacker, because they've got Warner and Greenlaw at the top of the room. But boy, Winters and Jalen Graham, this is the future for the 49ers, and the future may come in handy this season because they're going to need a number 3 linebacker following the departure of Azeez Al-Shire. They may also need a backup Mike or a Mike of the future. And guess what? Jalen Graham had the radio in his helmet, and it seemed like he was doing a good job for the 49ers yesterday. All right, we're going to move to some stock downs. Deshaun Jameson. 49ers DB, undrafted free agent out of Texas, has been making waves throughout the entire offseason. He was an electric return man at Texas as well. 2 bad punt returns yesterday. He muffed one, and then he was running sideways / backwards on another one. I thought Ronnie Bell looked a whole lot more comfortable in that punt return spot, even though he had way less experience doing that at Michigan. Tough day for Deshaun Jameson in the special teams aspect of the game. This is going to be one of the challenges that the 49ers really need to address heading into week 1, assuming that Ray McLeod is not back early from his injury to play against his former team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can't go into an NFL game with uncertainty at punt returner. You have to have somebody who you trust back there. And I don't think Deshaun Jameson has shown the 49ers enough, especially after what happened last night, to show them that he can be really relied upon. Maybe Ronnie Bell can do it, but again, he only had like 13 punt returns at Michigan, so the 49ers would still be holding their breath there. There's a reason why Kyle Shanahan yesterday after the game said that Ronnie Bell and Deshaun Jameson, when they're looking at that punt return job and they're competing not only against other 49ers, but they're competing against other guys around the league, because the 49ers have their eyes out on the entire NFL for players they can sign to be punt returners. I think that Deshaun Jameson is more built to be a kick returner for the 49ers, and Ronnie Bell is more built to be a punt returner. Either way, the 49ers are going to have to shore up both of those 2 spots, and it obviously wasn't a good day for Deshaun Jameson's stock with the fumble on the punt return, and then the second one that did not go nearly as well as some of his action last week. But everything last week for Deshaun Jameson, even the more electric ones, they were called back by penalties. It wasn't Deshaun Jameson's fault, obviously, but they didn't get logged into the actual record, although I'm sure the 49ers did take note of his elusiveness. Stock down for Miles Hartsfield. I never expected Miles Hartsfield to make the 49ers team, the 53-man roster, and I'm even more sure of it now. He missed a couple tackles yesterday. You could see here my roster projection. You've got Hartsfield on the outside looking in. This was a guy who played with Steve Wilks or for Steve Wilks in Carolina, and Wilks brought him over to help instill some of the scheme in this 49ers defense. And I think Hartsfield has probably done a good job of that. But as far as tackling ability, football ability to make this 53-man roster, just really hard for me to see Hartsfield doing that. He's on the outside looking in. It took a really bad angle on the late touchdown from Denver. Actually, 2 scores from Denver were the result of Miles Hartsfield missed tackles. And, speaking of missed tackles, that's another piece on our stock down chart. This one is obviously more prominent, and that is Isaiah Oliver, the 49ers free agent signing this offseason. Thought that he was going to be the starting nickel back. I don't think that's going to be the case. Now we have to question, is Oliver going to make this team? I still am getting the hint that the 49ers are going to want to run. If Oliver proves that he can make some of these big tackles, I think they're going to want to run maybe a dual nickel situations. They have some versatility against bigger packages, against bigger slot receivers, because that was the point of signing Isaiah Oliver in the first place, right? A 205 to 210 pound nickel. But he missed that 3rd and 8 tackle on the tight end, Greg Dulcich, yesterday near the sideline. It was not a pretty play. And the stock has just been dropping for Isaiah Oliver here over the course of the past 7 or 8 days, to the point where the 49ers seem fully committed to finding their best 3 cover corners in the nickel situation through other means. And right now, the players in that mix are obviously Charvarius Ward, obviously Deommodore Lenoir, and then Ambry Thomas and Samuel Womack. And we talked about Samuel Womack. How about we talk about Ambry Thomas? Stock down for him. Now, it's not cut and dry. I thought that, the 49ers tossed Thomas out there as a full-time outside corner yesterday to get a read on what he'd do. Maybe next week they start Samuel Womack at full-time outside corner to give him a chance, kind of like the Trey Lance, Sam Darnold competition, give each guy a week with more primary action. But the 49ers wanted to see how Ambry Thomas would fare against Jerry Jeudy. That was the primary test that Ambry Thomas was given. And he held up just fine on a deep throw into the end zone from Russell Wilson early on, blanketed Jerry Jeudy. It was incomplete. So at that point, I was impressed with Ambry Thomas, who, by the way, has had a great camp. It's been physical. I told you the story last week about how he says a play against George Kittle after they were jawing at each other during OTAs, a PBU for Ambry Thomas, that's what turned it around for him. He's been much more physical this offseason, moving into this training camp and this preseason. Had a really good game against the Raiders last week, then had a really good play covering Jerry Jeudy downfield early in this game against the Broncos. But then it was the double move. There was a double move that sullied Ambry Thomas's evening, right? It was late in the first half. It ended up being the final play of the first half. Yeah, Jalen Virgil run the out and up, and Ambry got over eager. He bit on the out, then the up part of the route. Well, even Taylor Hawkins couldn't keep up with Jalen Virgil, who caught the ball over the top. Thankfully for the 49ers, they got a touchdown saver from Jair Brown. And that touchdown saver is something that I wrote about on The Athletic. Now that more of you are in here, I can share this. This was my piece from the locker room. This is the 49ers rookie standout watch. Jair Brown and his second straight game with a touchdown saving tackle is something that I featured. I mean, he's developing a good reputation for making plays like that. But the reason that Jair Brown had to make that play is because Ambry Thomas got beat and Taylor Hawkins wasn't over there to help in time. So stock down for Ambry Thomas just because there was a play that he can't give up that he gave up at the end of the first half. Now, that being said, we've seen more rises in stock for Ambry Thomas over the course of this offseason than we've seen dips in stock. And I think that one of the more compelling storylines entering next week is who's it going to be, Ambry Thomas or Samuel Womack. By the way, if you want to check this out, big article on Ronnie Bell, Cam Latu, we talked about him, Jair Brown, all these rookies. I talked to D. Winters as well in the locker room. Check out this article in the description. It's $2 a month right now for The Athletic. I'm going to go into the chat section and post the link there as well. So there you go. It's at the bottom of the screen, but I'm sure you could check it out in the chat section. This is the inside insight that you are going to want to read from the 49ers locker room. Obviously, I'm sharing some of it right now, but when we talk about stock up, stock down, you can't tell the full story without some of those rookie contributions. I mean, speaking of some of those rookie contributions, somebody like Ronnie Bell, it's hard for me to say stock up or stock down because it was a little bit of both, right? Stocks rise and stocks fall. But Ronnie Bell dropped the pass that turned into an interception. Ronnie Bell also fumbled, although the 49ers did recover that fumble. It was reliable old Troy Fumagalli who recovered the fumble. Then again, Bell was just dominant after the catch yesterday. And part of my article is this. Look at this. Ronnie Bell telling me about his relationship with Deebo Samuel. I want to widen this so it takes up full readability for you. So no wonder Ronnie Bell's so good after the catch. Look what Deebo Samuel has done over the past few months for the rookie. It's just a big brother relationship, Bell said in the locker room. I appreciate that more than anything. Throughout this whole process, he's taken me under his wing. He's really been with me in any situation. When I'm struggling, thinking about this, thinking about that, at the beginning of camp, not getting any reps, he always has been in my hip, letting me know to keep going. So I definitely appreciate him for that. How about that for veteran leadership? Deebo Samuel helping out Ronnie Bell, and now Ronnie Bell looking like a mini Deebo Samuel. Now, obviously, Deebo has had some drop issues in the past. Not his strong suit, right? Brandon Ayuk's got the really sticky hands. So Ronnie Bell needs to figure out what's wrong. Can't keep on dropping passes. Kyle Shanahan noted that yesterday. But Ronnie Bell can also keep on doing what he's doing right, which is just this impressive balance and hunger and drive after the catch. I asked Ronnie about playing with Deebo, playing with George Kittle, all these guys who are great yak monsters, because Ronnie wasn't nearly as good last year at Michigan. He was coming off the ACL, but he wasn't nearly as good at yards after contact last year for the Michigan Wolverines. And Ronnie Bell said he took his shortcomings as a yak monster last year in Michigan personally, and he's wanted to get better at that. And he talks about it being a mentality. And I think being around guys like Deebo Samuel, his big brother, being around guys like George Kittle, that's the mentality is rubbed off on Ronnie Bell. I think that's the rising tide lifts all boats, right? And I think that that's something that we cannot ignore about what the 49ers have cooking right now. They've got a roster that is brimming with star power, that's been the yards after contact leader in the NFL for several seasons. They have a reputation of being a bunch of tough guys after contact. And when you plug a rookie into that, even if he's a 7th round pick, he might not be an elite draft pick, but you plug a rookie into that environment's going to rub off on the rookie. So when you see Ronnie Bell breaking all these tackles, a lot of it is that 49ers environment is rubbing off on him. Deebo Samuel's influence is rubbing off on him. And we can see the talents of Ronnie Bell truly shine in a situation that is conducive to them. Now they just got to get him on the jugs machine to make sure that those drop picks don't happen, because Brandon Allen, 4th string quarterback, was hurt by one against Vegas. And yesterday we saw Sam Darnold hurt by the drop from Ronnie Bell. Let me go through some more of my notes. That was stock up, stock down, though. I think I did a good job going through everything. It was a rookie extravaganza for the 49ers yesterday. We'll put Trey Lance back up on the screen. I think Trey Lance deserves some shine. You know, it was a cool moment yesterday. Trey Lance throws the touchdown pass, seam route to Cam Latu. By the way, Cam Latu, I think stock up, right? The drops were a big, big issue for Cam Latu entering this game. He told me that he should have caught the corner route where Trey Lance got drilled that I was talking about at the top of the show. That's what Latu said. I should have had that ball. But despite that play, he made catches when they mattered. There was a rollout from Sam Darnold, tough catch for Cam Latu, and then he caught the touchdown that was really big from Trey Lance down the stretch. But we talk about Latu, we talk about the rookies improving. That's what the 49ers wanted to see. I would definitely categorize Cam Latu in stock up. But I want to go through some more of my notes. You know, I said I thought that Jalen Moore wasn't terrible yesterday. There was a screen early in the game where I think to Ronnie Bell with that screen pass where Jalen Moore was out in front blocking, moving well in space. So you got to give Jalen Moore credit where it's due. I think he definitely moves the best out of the contending 49ers swing tackles. And I'm not really counting Leroy Watson in that contenders category. I think he's let up too much pressure. I think he's a little too raw. Leroy moves really well. He's a former tight end, but Jalen Moore moves better than Matt Pryor. Matt Pryor is the biggest 49ers offensive lineman. Just huge body. He might have cut a little bit of weight here since he joined the team. He's obviously been working into better shape, but he's not your prototypical zone blocking tackle. Think Jalen Moore fits that bill more closely. And Moore, you got to give him credit. He was good on a screen out in space. Speaking of blocking out in space, Jawan Jennings was getting under Denver's skin yesterday. And if you want to talk about Jawan Jennings, that was Trey Lance's best. Not Trey Lance. That was Brock Purdy's best throw. Early on, roll left. It was a double option kind of throw, right? Kyle Shanahan has the options layered there. Brandon Ayuk was running the crosser underneath. He was covered because Denver had figured that play out after the first play to Deebo Samuel, where it was the same action, rolling out naked side. Samuel was wide open. So Denver went to cover Brandon Ayuk, which made Purdy shift his attention to the option further downfield. And that was Juwan Jennings. And Purdy flipped his hips, made a nice throw on the run. That's the throw where I was like, okay, Brock Purdy's back. Of course, the first throw, it's not a difficult one. We've seen 49ers quarterbacks have trouble with those easy bread and butter throws. But the first one to Deebo Samuel, he executed just fine. Deebo did the work after the catch. But it was that 15-yarder of however long it was. It moved the chains to Juwan Jennings that really, really did impress me with Brock Purdy early on. 49ers blitzed Russell Wilson a lot. That's, something that we should keep an eye on with Steve Wilks. The blitz rate's going to go up. It has gone up in practice. I thought Russell beat some of the blitzes. There was one where he beat a Talanoa Hufanga blitz and had a lot of space to run. So it was good to play Russell Wilson. Jair Brown told me about that. He said, as a rookie, facing a quarterback like Russell Wilson, getting to communicate with players like Talanoa Hufanga, like Fred Warner, in a chess match against a future Hall of Fame QB, that was invaluable for the 49ers, right? Because Brown started this game. Deshaun Gibson didn't play, but there's a lot to clean up for the 49ers as far as when these blitzes hit, when they don't hit, how they're going to compensate when they don't hit. And yesterday, I thought they got burned a couple times on over-aggressive blitzes that did not hit. Changing the text title here. So we're up to date. We're going through some more 49ers thoughts. Speaking of blitzes, though, Sam Darnold beat a nice blitz with a throw to Jordan Mason to the flat. That got Darnold into his earlier rhythm. Darnold to Conley was a nice slant pass yesterday. Darnold beat the blitz when Josie Jewell laid him out. I mentioned that. That was Juwan Jennings' catch number 2. That was really good, obviously nullified by penalty. But both Purdy and Darnold hit Jennings for big plays downfield in the midst of pressure that I thought were good bellwethers for the 49ers. And I thought the second unit's run blocking for the 49ers was better in this game, definitely better than it was in week 1. I talked about Womack. I talked about Ambry Thomas getting beat on the double move. That's something that the 49ers have to keep an eye out for. Let's watch that cornerback battle next week. Talk about the muff from Jameson, stalk down for Hartsfield. How about the kick returner, punt returner delineation between Deshaun Jameson and Ronnie Bell? Deshaun better at kick returns, Ronnie Bell better at punt returns. Oh, and Quantrez Knight. Let's say stock up for Quantrez. He made some big plays there at the very end. I don't think people should discount Quantrez Knight's versatility. This guy can play any position in the secondary. He might only end up on the practice squad, but hell, who knows? Let's look at this really quickly. Let's look at this roster. Because if Isaiah Oliver doesn't make the team, which I think is possible right now, I have Oliver at the first team nickelback spot. I think I need to change that. I think I need to move Lenore down there. I have Quantrez Knight over here. He could play safety. He could play nickel. Probably could play outside corner in a pinch, but I would keep him at nickel or safety. Quantrez Knight, hard-hitting guy, versatile guy. Isaiah Oliver might not be long for this roster. Somebody like Quantrez Knight could be a good, adaptable fill-in for him. Why don't we make this change right now? I think it's time to – I don't know if I'm going to kick Oliver off of the projection altogether, but I do want to make sure that I move Diamond Lenore into that nickelback spot. Who do you think is leading? Do you think that Samuel Womack or Ambry Thomas is leading right now? Well, Ambry Thomas got the first look yesterday, so we'll put Ambry Thomas in that cornerback spot opposite Ward right now. We'll put Deshaun Jameson as an outside backup over here. And we'll put Isaiah Oliver. We'll keep Isaiah Oliver on the roster for now, but we'll put Isaiah as a backup nickelback instead of that starting position. So we can shade Deshaun Jameson in yellow since he is a rookie. So this is what it looks like now. Charvarius Ward, Ambry Thomas, Diamond Lenore, your top 3 cornerbacks. Isaiah Oliver behind Lenore, and then Womack and Jameson behind Thomas and Charvarius Ward. The big question is, does Quantrez Knight make this team? Well, I think Quantrez can potentially make this team if Isaiah Oliver doesn't, right? this is what it would look like. Isaiah Oliver gets cut, traded, whatever. Quantrez Knight takes his spot as a backup nickel and a backup safety. Probably a better change of direction with Quantrez Knight. Oliver can be a missile. He could be a good blitzer. He could be good in run support. So we'll see. Let's let this play out fully here. But there is move afoot in that 49ers secondary. And to me, it's really, really interesting. So that's a big little roster depth chart update that I just made. I like the looks of this right now. Now, of course, Womack and Thomas are competing. And as I mentioned, the stock is up for Womack and the stock is down for Ambry Thomas, but this battle's not done yet. We're going to have to see how this all evolves moving into next week. All right, so went through everything, 49ers thoughts. How about we move into a 49ers Q&A? Let me check here with Mike on something. Get your questions up there. I'm sure you have plenty of good ones, right? After what an entertaining game yesterday. I mean, it's so much for the preseason. We had so much to dissect, which I always love. All right, I'm going to open this up to 49ers Q&A. Yeah, Isaiah Oliver is guaranteed some money. If he gets traded, he's not. If he gets traded, his contract goes to another team. If he gets cut, well, guaranteed money is guaranteed money. So there would be a dead money hit. It wouldn't be huge for the 49ers, but there would be one. Let's get your questions up. Yeah, that was a cool moment yesterday. Lance came out, there was a loud cheer, and then the 49ers sideline, including Brandon Ayuk, who drew a penalty on the play, is already wearing his sweats, sprinted out onto the field after Lance threw the touchdown to Latu. So, I mean, yes, it incurred a penalty. It hurt the 49ers at the moment, but it's a good showing of how much this 49ers locker room likes Trey Lance. He's a very popular figure in that locker room. I think the 49ers would cut anyone if they feel that somebody else is a better match for this roster. I don't think they want to do it, but again, the way that this is played out organically with somebody like Quantrez Knight playing and impressing as much as he has, it is a possibility. I would just caution to wait until cut down day because there could be so many twists and turns before the 49ers actually have to make any decisions. There's only one cut down date. It's on August 29th. They don't do it the way that they used to. They don't have multiple cut down days. Captains aren't going to be announced until the 53-man cut down before week 1 for the 49ers. I think anything could happen if Jake Moody struggles to begin the season. That being said, the insurance policy for the 49ers right now is Zane Gonzalez. If Moody is shaky and struggling, the 49ers won't let go of Zane Gonzalez. That's the insurance policy. Robbie Gould wouldn't be until number 3 on that list at soonest. And he might be pretty pricey for the 49ers. He might have some leverage over them if it gets to that point. But Moody didn't hit anything completely clean yesterday, but he did get the job done when it was all said and done. Jeremy McNichols seems to be an intriguing training camp preseason body for the 49ers. He might be able to get a practice squad spot, and those are valuable for the 49ers running backs because you're a snap away from being plugged into one of the deadliest offensive systems in the league, right? We've seen 49ers undrafted running backs on the practice squad parlay their opportunities into money. I mean, if you look at Jeff Wilson as a great example. So Jeremy McNichols started getting quite a bit of run after the 49ers signed him. They replaced Ronald Awat, one of their undrafted free agents, with McNichols, and they just waived the other UDFA, Kalon LeBourne, yesterday. So Jeremy McNichols, obviously higher up on the pecking order than those two guys who are already off the team. McNichols was with the team in 2017. That was Kyle Shanahan's first season. They obviously liked him back then enough to bring him back a few years later. They just haven't had enough room on the roster. It's always been a loaded running back room for the 49ers. That's a position they've really tried to stock up on. So McNichols has got a shot to stick around on the practice squad, and maybe more than that if there are injuries next week in the running back room. 49ers certainly hope that doesn't happen, but right now McNichols is providing a bridge so they don't have to play too many guys and rack up too much of a pitch count on some of these running backs before the end of the preseason. Well, I think that the 49ers want to find a way to get Gonzalez in there to showcase him a little bit, just in case, it's tough because Zane Gonzalez is either insurance or he's a trade asset. Both are good, but you've got to decide which you want him to be by the time that this roster cuts down, right? Because right now Jake Moody's a little bit shaky, so you want to give Moody all the chances to work out of this rut. That being said, Zane Gonzalez hasn't had a chance to kick yet, and if you want him to be a trade asset, if you want to dangle him out there to get a pick in return, well, he's probably going to have to kick a little bit during the preseason. What makes the 49ers feel good about Jake Moody is how consistent he's been at practice. They feel that he's going to get through this. He just has to psychologically get through the start of his NFL kicking journey. It's a different thing psychologically to do it in games than it is in practice. So they're saying give Moody some more time. They think the winning kick was just squeezed in there yesterday. It was a little too close for comfort, but they think that winning kick could be a big step forward for Jake Moody. Well, if he nails through a couple right down the middle next week and they're like, okay, this guy's got it figured out, maybe they can showcase Zane Gonzalez a little bit before the cut down. I don't think Ronnie Bell is going to be a running back, but I think he's going to be a receiver who takes some jet sweeps. We've already seen one. That was his first run against the Raiders. Same thing with Deebo Samuel. That's scary, paired with Christian McCaffrey as well. I mean, these are all positionless, skill position weapons, right? Kyle Shanahan loves that versatility up front. I think this just depends on how long Kyle Juszczyk wants to play. I don't think Kyle Juszczyk is slowing down at all. Looks like he's in great shape. But if he doesn't want to play much longer, well, then you've got somebody like Jack Coletto on the team, and you're developing him as a replacement. I think that Jair Brown could get off blocks. I saw a couple where he got a little swallowed up. But again, here, a safety is not built to get off blocks like a linebacker. He's a safety. A safety it's more about angles. It's about avoiding those blocks altogether. It's about the coverage on the back end. And I think that, the two touchdown saving tackles that we've seen from Jair Brown have been good plays. We'll get to see him blitz more. We'll probably get to see his instincts and coverage over time. If you're trying to shed guys mano a mano as a safety, you've probably already lost the battle. Right. So the safeties, again, these are coverage guys, smaller bodies. If a fullback or an offensive lineman is bodying up a safety, I don't expect the safety to shed the block. Right. So I think people are just making up weaknesses for Jair Brown here. He might have gotten swallowed up a couple times. He wants to get out of that situation next time. He's never going to be strong enough to shed the block of an offensive lineman or somebody who's heavier than him. And if he is strong enough to do that, well, it's going to be a problem in coverage because he's not going to be mobile enough on the back end. So I thought it was a good outing for Jair Brown. He got to play with the ones, which was huge. because the 49ers are probably going to ask that of him this year in 3 safety sets. Let's just see how he does once the 49ers' entire first team is out there around him in extended action. And Trey Brown, the reason the 49ers won, nobody giving him any credit. Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't make the touchdown saver on Jalen Virgil, 49ers don't win that game. That was a Dak Prescott moment when Denver ran out of time at the 1-yard line. Man, I just lost my camera. Give me a second here. Let me pop open the 49ers depth chart and let me get this camera working. Maybe I've been on too long. There we go. All right, give me a second here. Camera issues will be fixed. You guys can continue asking some of your questions. I'll put 49ers Q&A up there. Not really sure what's going on here. Sometimes the technical difficulties are tough to figure out. Keep your questions coming, though. I'll answer them audio-wise. I do think that Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles can make it over McCrary Ball. McCrary Ball could go back to the practice squad because of the special teams aspect of Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles' plays. He has constantly made this roster because of special teams, and the 49ers do like that veteran presence there. All right, we're trying to figure out this camera situation, and it still is giving us trouble. I always have to dress business casual. Now, those of you just logging in don't see it right now because the camera is not functional. But this is the day after a game. This is serious stuff. So I will be wearing the blazer. This is a blazer show for sure. Yeah, you know what? I don't know if this is going to work, guys. Think we may have to call it. Think I may have to take a deeper look at what's going on here. Keep on plugging this in, and it is not cooperating. So I'm just going to talk here for a little bit. I'm going to put my article up on the screen. Rookie standout watch. This is up on The Athletic. So check it out. The link is in the comment section. You can check out the rookie standout watch. Check out the 90-man depth chart. Here's the 49ers pressures allowed on the offensive line. I talked about the stock for Zakel and Poe being up. And I also talked about this. This is what the 49ers did on the defensive line. Austin Bryant, 3 pressures. Marlon Davidson, 2. Cleveland Farrell, 2. T.Y. McGill, a pair of pressures. Ladarius Hamilton, Breeland Speaks, Javon Hargrave. All good stuff. I talked to Austin Bryant in the locker room. He said, it's just like old times. He's with his former Clemson teammate, Cleveland Farrell, on that 49ers defensive line. And former Clemson teammates who won a national championship at Levi Stadium against Alabama, they're enjoying working with Chris Kasarik against other teams now. Neither of them were great in their first stops in the NFL. Farrell with the Raiders, Bryant with the Lions. But they do have a chance to turn things around here with the 49ers. I really want to get this camera to work again. But I also am hungry. Maybe we can do a lunch with Lombardi here in a little bit from the streets of San Francisco before Kyle Shanahan's conference call at 2:00. Yeah. This is not going to work. How about we look at this? Ronnie Bell. It's just a big brother relationship with Deebo Samuel. I appreciate that more than anything. Throughout this whole process, he's taken me under his wing. He's really been with me in any situation when I'm struggling, thinking about this, thinking about that at the beginning of camp, not really getting any reps. He always has been in my hip, letting me know how to keep going. So I definitely appreciate him for that. No wonder Ronnie Bell is looking like Deebo Samuel after the catch for the 49ers out there. He's been getting some mentorship from Deebo Samuel. All right, lunch with Lombardi coming up. I've got some more thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed Stock Up and Stock Down. Sorry that I am not there to visually tell you goodbye, but you can hear me right now, and we'll get this camera working again. I'll talk to you very soon. Everybody take care.